They performed at the Mama Awards before they even debuted. Some crowds didn't know their names yet, but they knew the faces. The way they held a stage like they'd already earned it. Alpha Drive 1 was given stages, cameras, and expectations, everything to prove that the stage was the only place they ever belonged. The formula. The survival show was called Boys to Planet. It was a 6-month grind that captivated millions throughout 2024. 16 contestants, monthly eliminations, and a final lineup decided by the fans and the expert judges. The members came from different backgrounds. Some were trainees for years. Others walked in with nothing but 3 months of lessons and a viral YouTube dance cover. One was a vocal coach's student who'd never performed in public. Another was a child actor pivoting to music. When the finale finally aired, over 4 million people watched live. The tension was so high that when the final member was announced, the live chat platform actually crashed. What made this group different wasn't the format. Survival shows have created dozens of groups. What made them different was that they didn't stop after the finale. The show ended, but the momentum didn't. 2 weeks after the finale, they were at a music festival. A month later, they were the faces of a major brand. 3 months later, a documentary filming their preparation for debut. Most survival show groups disappear into the practice room and reappear for an official debut. Alpha Drive 1 stayed visible. The pressure never stopped. And neither did they. They've hit the major stage by then. Still no official discography, just moments of proof. At the Mnet Asian Music Awards, they opened the night performing an intro and their pre-release single, Formula. Fan feedback on the live performance was enthusiastic early on. Reviews often mentioned the track's energetic and catchy feel, noting the strong beat, pretty vocals, and the unique robotic vibe in the chorus. Others highlighted the good production quality, feeling the audio was top-notch and that the Mama Live performance didn't fully capture its strength. When the full studio version dropped back in December, it was met with sharp criticism. This was the first crack in the armor. It raised a massive red flag going into January. Many felt the song had a generic sound, arguing it wasn't bad, but nothing really stood out. Others expressed a lack of originality, and across fan forums, a very common complaint was the uneven line distribution, with many pointing out that member Arno still had too few lines. Yet, the overarching data tells a different story when it comes to their proven live presence. Crowd reaction post-performance shows demand for more. They've proven they can hold a stage. They've proven they can hold a crowd. The only question left is how far they'll go once the engine finally starts on January 12th, their official debut. On January 12th, the speculation ended. The engine finally started. Alpha Drive 1 officially debuted with their first mini-album, EUPHORIA. And if there was any doubt about their momentum, the numbers on day one silenced it. EUPHORIA sold over 1.1 million copies in its first 24 hours. By the end of the week, that number climbed to 1.44 million. That's not just good for a rookie. That is the second highest first-week sales for a debut album in K-pop history, officially chasing the shadows of giants. But the music was the real talking point. The title track, Freak Alarm. They took the abrasive edge of Formula and refined it into something cinematic. It's a track built on a heavy bass line and clock gear percussion, a literal alarm to the industry. The track list for EUPHORIA also acted as a bridge for the fans who followed them from the survival show. Along with Freak Alarm and Formula, we got Raw Flame, Cinnamon Shake, and reimagined versions of contest favorites like Chain, Never Been Too Heaven. The industry usually makes rookies wait. They make them earn their spot on the terrestrial charts. Alpha Drive 1 didn't wait. Within 2 weeks of debut, they achieved a terrestrial sweep, winning on Music Bank Show. Music Core and Inkigayo with a debut song is a feat that hasn't been accomplished by a boy group in nearly 9 years. But look past the trophies and look at the encore stages. That's where the live presence we've been talking about was put to the ultimate test. And then there is the Arno factor. After the 7-second line controversy in Formula, the eyes of the entire fandom were on the debut distribution. While Freak Alarm still plays to his strengths as a visual and performer, his presence in the center during the Freak Alarm choreography became the most viral moment of the era. The debate about fairness hasn't vanished, but it has shifted. Alpha Drive 1 has proven they can handle the pressure of the spotlight. Now, they have to prove they can stay in it. Sales and trophies are the industry's metrics. But for the fans, the Allies, the real test of the debut was personal. They wanted to see if the 8 individuals they voted for in Boys 2 Planet had finally become a single unit. Sangwon and geonwoo became the vocal pillars. Sangwon's Freak Alarm intro set the tone, but it was geonwoo's stability during the high-note ad-libs that proved they didn't need backtrack. Then you have the performance core. Fans often point out that while xinlong is sharp and powerful, anxin is fluid, making them the perfect contrast for a performance core. Leo and Sangyeon took over the atmosphere. Leo transitioned from the trainee A legacy into a definitive leader. Sanghyun, often the dark horse, provided a magnetic contrast that effortlessly kept the audience's eyes glued to him. Finally, there is Junseo and Arno. Junseo is the team anchor. As the only member to have walked this path twice before, he was the silent glue of the group. And Arno, expressions and charisma during his center part dominated the social media trends. The report card is clear. They have the talent and they have the heart. But as we leave the euphoria of the debut month behind, a new challenge appears. The January bloodbath is over, but the long-term race is just beginning. Now that the engine is warm, where does the road actually lead in 2026? If we're being honest, they aren't fully there yet. A debut is a sprint. A career is a marathon. While the 1.4 million sales for Euphoria are historic, the industry is already asking, what's next? Alpha Drive 1 is operating on a 5-year project contract with an additional 1-year special activity period, totaling 6 years. In the world of survival show groups, that is an eternity. Unlike the temporary 1 or 2-year contracts of the past, this group has the time to actually build a legacy, but they also have the pressure to maintain this peak for half a decade. The gap we talked about before January 12th, the uneven vocal stability, and the reliance on backing tracks has started to close. However, the January bloodbath was just the beginning. By March and April, the market will be flooded with comebacks from K-pop titans and possibly the debut of the next big thing from the big 3 labels. Alpha Drive 1 can't just be the survival show group anymore. They have to become a sonic brand. The debate among critics now isn't about their talent, it's about their sound. Will they stay in this aggressive, industrial, dark pop lane? Or will they pivot to something more mainstream to capture the general public? Their B-side performance of Cinnamon Shake showed a softer, more melodic side that went viral on TikTok, suggesting that the engine of this group has more gears than just high-speed racing. They have the fandom. They have the sales. Now they need the longevity. In 2026, being good is the baseline. Being irreplaceable is the goal. So, we return to the question we asked at the very beginning. Was Alpha Drive 1 truly ready? Or were they just a product of survival show hype? The verdict is in, and it's written in the record books.
알파 드라이브 1.
Let's go! Let's go!
The January bloodbath didn't swallow them whole. It became their stage. By clearing 1.4 million sales and sweeping the terrestrial music shows, they are finding their track to fit into the industry. They've proven they can bridge the gap. The vocal instability we saw in the pre-debut festivals, it was replaced by the rock-solid encore stages of EUPHORIA. The concerns about line distribution, they were answered by a strategic choreography that highlighted every member's killing part. They've proven they can hold a crowd of thousands before they had a song, and now they've proven they can hold the #1 spot when the scoreboard is actually on. The pressure that started on Boys 2 Planet, the expectations that grew with every festival stage, the visible gaps in their training, and their undeniable potential. But the most important thing they proved was about resilience. In an industry that often feels manufactured, Alpha Drive 1 feels like an engine made of real steel. They've taken the criticism, the pressure, and the grueling expectations of a 2026 debut, and they've turned it into fuel. Alpha Drive 1 showed us more before their debut than most groups show in their entire first year. They gave us the grit of Drive to debut, they gave us the tension of the festivals, and now they've given us the explosion of euphoria. 2026 will answer more questions we have. The January 12th date is a foundation. Whether they were worth the wait is no longer a debate. The world is finally watching. The charts are finally responding. And the fandom is finally home. This is Alpha Drive 1. And the drive doesn't stop at the debut. It's only the beginning. Alpha Drive 1 dared to be bold, will you?